what would you do in terms of imagery as a CEO?
I would be doing more pictures with you in high authority positions, because if you're going after enterprise buyers, you're trying to signal that you have social status, speaking at a conference and making sure there's a good photographer there who can take pictures of you while you're on stage. Another one is to be with a bunch of people in your target audience. CEO accounts. CEOs have like different goals. They're often trying to hire people. They're often like looking for investor attention. They're often trying to break into these like bigger B2B industries. The threshold there for creating trust to ultimately drive revenue is just different.
The authority hook is just what a professional network is begging for. You have to treat LinkedIn as though no one has ever heard of you who is about to read this post.
Is there a danger in posting mediocre content? Welcome back to the show. Today's guest is a LinkedIn master with over 400,000 followers. That is a feat he achieved in about 20 months, which is insane. He was the fastest growing creator on LinkedIn in 2024, and his audience only continues to climb. He is the founder of Say What AI, and he's here to tell us how to win on LinkedIn today. We're thrilled to be joined once again by Will McTighe. Will, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Pete. Great to be here.
Well, we're pumped to have you. We have a lot to dive into. Even in the backstage, you were dumping on some good knowledge on us. So we're going to cover everything. But Adam, what are 3 things that people will learn if they stick around until the end of the show today?
The first thing is we're going to break down the exact 4-part system we'll use to become the platform's fastest growing creator, including these specific pivot points for your content. And number 2, you'll learn to create topic DNA, the framework for writing authority content that people bookmark and share, boosting dwell time and reach. And number 3, we'll show you how to turn your LinkedIn profile into a high converting landing page that earns attention and converts it into real business opportunities. Thank you for coming, Will.
Of course. And we must do some teardowns as well of people's content. There's nothing more fun than...
Oh, yeah.
Right. If you stick around to the end, folks, we're going to have you drop in links to your content, to your profiles, and we're going to do live teardowns on those. We do that sometimes with cold outreach. I love when we do it with LinkedIn, especially because we can share to the screen. Everyone can see it. We're all on the same page. It is amazing. So we'll do that. I don't know, in about 40 minutes ish. We'll see. Yeah. We'll figure out a good break point, but let's jump into it. So Will, for context, you do a lot of things. You help businesses with their LinkedIn content, but you also created this thing called Say What AI. I'm going to drop the URL into the chat here, and I'm going to share my screen, but could you tell the folks what Say What is?
Yeah. So basically, Say What is just a tool to make it easier to build your brand on LinkedIn. Like there are a bunch of different frictions, like finding content ideas, generating infographics, writing posts, and I basically built something to solve my own pain points. And that does somewhere between like 600 and 700 K a year now, just as a 2-person little bootstrap team. Yeah. So yeah, I do that. And then, over the last 6 months, I think since we've last spoken, I've been helping a bunch of, execs at bigger companies or, tech, generally often like VC backed tech companies build their personal brands. And I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff to talk about there if you are a founder of a business, as opposed to a like solopreneur or creator.
So that, I think, ties us perfectly into our first topic here. So before we joined, we were going through kind of different topics we were going to cover. And you said, hey, what about this like idea of a creator account versus a CEO account? Because the approach is very different. And I was like, what? And then I was like, what is Adam? Like, what? He's a CEO, but he's a creator. So anyway, creator account versus CEO account. This is new to me. I've always just looked in and I'm like, I'm a LinkedIn guy-ish, but I'm more a kind of a general marketer. So could you tell us this difference between creator account, CEO account, and how people should be thinking about what they are?
Yeah. So ultimately, it ladders up to how your business makes money. So a creator account often makes money from brand partnerships. So if you look at, as an example, brand partnerships or services sold to individuals. So it could be like courses, micro SaaS in the case of me and Say What. Um, Whereas you have CEO accounts, CEOs have like different goals. They're often trying to hire people. They're often like looking for investor attention. They're often trying to break into these like bigger B2B industries, which are much harder to break into. And so the threshold there for creating trust to ultimately drive revenue is just different. And so the content strategy is very different. To like bring this to life, you can look at my profile, and my LinkedIn profile itself generates revenue from Say What, and then which really speaks to the like small business owner audience, and then brand partnerships. And so yeah, like in 2026, I'll probably do like 500,000 in brand partnerships, and yeah, Say What's like 600, 700K. And that's how my profile itself makes money. And so what you have is these posts that are a lot of my content is optimized for education and reach, and it's speaking to a broad audience. Because if you think about brand partnerships, you're often paid on a CPM basis, like cost per 1,000 views. And so you need to get views with a particular audience for that to be valuable. But then on the other hand, if you are selling to enterprises, it is much more of a trust-based game. And I can step through the 4 pillars that I think of in a founder brand, like selling to enterprise, if that's helpful. Drop in the chat. Who here is like selling to enterprises in their businesses?
Certainly, there's a chunk of people. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Yeah, we're at least assuming everybody's typing. We're like 20% enterprise here.
Okay.
Augie says, nah. SMB market.
Okay.
What's up, Lucine? Long time no see.
Yeah. So is it helpful just to dive into the 4 or 5 types of post?
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be great.
Okay. All right. I can also just share my screen with a few examples.
100%. We love that.
Each type of post, you need to ladder up to like, what is the goal of this post? And the first goal that you have as a CEO is awareness and hiring, often. And so for that type of content, let me just share my screen. You want to do things that make people, it's really like founder stories and company culture type content. So here's an example of a post from a founder, which I saw recently that went pretty viral, which is, we ban shoes in our office. Yes, even if you're a partner at Sequoia Capital. This did, 630 likes and I think a couple 100,000 views. And so like, what is the value of this? To potential hires, it says like a bit about our culture. Yes, it's about like this one is a bit silly, but there's a bunch of other topics that you could talk about as well that do something pretty similar. Like, what are your hiring criteria and the like. And you can also talk about things like your founder stories. Like, for example, in Adam's case, it might be the stories around founding RB2B, that when he was stuck at like 3 million ARR, and how he got out of that trap, because it like inspires people, and it's applicable to the broadest possible audience. I think about content in terms of the TAM. What is the addressable market for your content? And for founder stories, the addressable market is basically everyone, because everyone's looking for some inspiration in their careers. So that's bucket one. Bucket number 2 is like industry expertise. Like, what are your contrarian takes on your industry? So, like, Adam's a great example of this, where his contrarian takes are that like taking VC money is stupid. Like for 99% of people, like bootstrap yourself to 10 million ARR. That's ultimate fuck you money. And in the case of Alfred on screen here, like his business is AI moderated user interviews, and so in his case, it's differentiated takes on how researchers, his target buyers, should be thinking about AI. And the goal here is that people read this and go, "Oh yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it like that." That's specifically what you want them to think when they read it, because then you are earning their respect. So that's bucket number 2. I can pause there and see if you have any comments on that before I dive into the remainder ones.
Yeah, something interesting for me. Like, I think there's this big range of like. Well, let me take a step back. The contrarian views are clearly make people think they're scroll stopping. It's like, wait, what does this person believe? But the bootstrap versus VC, I think, is a very big contrarian view. It's becoming less contrarian over time. But like even that, like take your shoes off at the office, like that's a little contrarian too. It's like, okay, that's a different approach. Like and then Sequoia Capital's tagged. Like that's interesting. And then you kind of read on. So it's just one of those things where like it's not this just general nonsense. It's like some sort of point of view that you're not seeing every day that is most likely going to cause some people to stop their scroll and read on. So I just think or like sharing failures and all of those things like just seem to be, it's almost like the more uncomfortable things to share, the ones that work the best in some terms.
Yeah. I always think back to the cease and desist letter that you got.
Yeah, unfortunately, that only happens like once in a lifetime. I wish it was more frequent.
Happen.
I used that playbook for a client.
Oh, you did?
And you actually commented on the post.
Was it that like was it Wonderkin that cease and desisted them? Was that who it was?
No. I can't say. But yeah, it was funny. But yeah, and so like on this industry expertise stuff, often the addressable market for it is smaller. And so like if you're speaking to a bunch of I don't know, like what's something super niche on LinkedIn, geologists or whatever. Like that group of people is just small. And so the maximum reach you could get on that content is just by definition smaller than some like cease and desist letter. And so I think people just always need to benchmark when they're like, oh, my impressions suck, that it always just depends on like what's the total addressable market for that post.
Yeah, and I think too, they're like measuring I think if you have a really small TAM and you get, I don't know, 100 likes, like that can be a smash. Like that could be a crazy big success. Whereas, you will, I mean, your poster about growing on LinkedIn, and virtually everybody on LinkedIn is interested in growing on LinkedIn. Not everybody, but
yeah,
like a big proportion of people. So I think too, it's just important for the audience to remember that like, while there are these super big heavy hitters, like that does not necessarily need to be you in order for you to find success. And you can actually find success fairly early-ish if you do have a smaller TAM, because that echo chamber is going to be smaller. It's kind of
like one example of that, Pete, is one of our clients is in robotics, and the content, the LinkedIn content on robotics is just such rubbish that like this guy is growing so fast because and getting such good reach, ironically, because the competition is very bad in that niche. So it can actually be that if you are in a niche with rubbish content, that you can really outperform other people quite easily. And the way to determine if you're in a niche with rubbish content is ask yourself, what does your feed look like? Is your feed actually interesting, or is it people's like job updates? Because if the best thing that LinkedIn can serve you is job updates of someone you went to high school with, then it's saying I've got nothing.
100%. I think that too, that coupled with like, sometimes you'll see, you'll log into LinkedIn and you'll see the same person every day because they're posting 1 or 2 times a day. But then you look at their engagement and they're like not really win. It's like almost like the illusion of somebody winning without them actually winning. I think that happens a lot too. And that's another signal, in my opinion, of just like an open field for you as a creator to really win. So, and yeah, I love when there's that wide open field based on basically the top creators in your field just posting nonsense. I think it's creates a great opportunity. So one thing I'm curious about is, so you post a ton of, I think, I don't want to be too maximalist here, but it looks like every post you make, you have some sort of image. There's a lot of infographics. I do see a couple of posts of yours that have, there's some carousels, another infographic. Occasionally you have a post of yourself. So I'm curious number one, how important do you think infographics are on LinkedIn these days? And when did you start making that like a every post type of deal for your profile?
Yeah. So I do 5 educational posts a week out of 7. So I typically will do 5 educational and then 2 personal. I've been doing that since like very early on because it was, initially I was just focused on growing an account. And the thing I had a right to speak about back then was getting a job at a good company. And like I had spent my early career in investment banking at Goldman Sachs and in private equity. Then I went to Stanford Business School. And like that didn't give me the right to speak about being an entrepreneur. That gave me the right to speak about how to get good jobs in the conventional system. So I started early on with that. And yeah, what's working right now is these like AI generated whiteboard infographics are just like really performing well on the educational side. I think for founder accounts, you only want to use them like occasionally because they are very like creatory. But they do perform well. And the reason they perform well is because they stand out on the feed. And the way I would think about this is like an algorithm, the LinkedIn's algorithm just wants to show people stuff that will keep them on platform. And like what makes humans consume something? Well, when it's new. And so AI generated whiteboard infographics are relatively new. And so people just stop and look at them. And that's just how design formats develop on every social platform. It's like someone comes up with something that's in some way innovative, and then boom, like people just start using it and it performs really, really well initially. And that's where whiteboard infographics are right now.
Are you seeing those start to get a little saturated? I'm not really. I mean, I see them occasionally, but I'm curious your view. You see more of the stuff than I do.
Not super saturated. Not super saturated yet. It's same with like paper background. Go ahead, Adam.
No. I was going to say, if probably most people in here are more the CEO type of account. If you wouldn't do that very often, what would you do in terms of imagery as a CEO type account?
I would be doing more pictures with you in high authority positions, because if you're going after enterprise buyers, you're trying to signal that you have social status and that they should pay attention to you. So a simple example of that is speaking at a conference and making sure there's a good photographer there who can take pictures of you while you're on stage. Because the psychology of that is, just going down to the monkey mind on LinkedIn, is someone sees you when it looks like you're on stage, maybe you have a microphone, and they go, oh, in that moment, I think there are people listening to them. So maybe I should listen to them too right now. So that's one way to signal social status. Another one is to be with a bunch of people in your target audience. So for example, you organize a dinner with potential buyers, say it's like heads of HR or CHROs at a company, and you take a picture with everyone, and then you post some of the things that are top of mind. And maybe your hook is like, I spent last night with some of the top minds in HR. Here is what everyone's thinking about when it comes to AI. And then anyone else who's in that position is like, oh, I want to know what my peers are thinking about. So they'll click, they'll read, and maybe if you butter up the people that you are with and give them compliments, they'll even repost, and their audience is probably a bunch of peers as well. So that's another way. Another thing you can do is logo posts. So I'll show you what logo posts are. I'll give you an example right now. I just pulled one up. So a logo post is something like this, where you have your company's logo and then your customer's logo. This is not a case study, just to be clear. This is just saying that I'm working with this company. And the goal here is that, this isn't going to get a ton of reach, but the goal here is that you have attracted some potential buyer to your profile. They're just scrolling your feed and they see brands that they respect. So you need to make sure in your contracts that you get logo rights from these brands. So that's another one. And I have a couple more things as well, but I'll pause there as I've been going for a while.
Here's the whole time you've been thinking about like creating this this like idea that people are watching you. Nathan Latka is so good at media, and like his monthly webinar, can you guys see this? Like,
yeah,
he literally spends $3,000 on this hour and a half every month for this. You know what I mean? He like has this big projector screen thing going on Tony Robbins style, like just so people think that he is important and listen to him. It's like an amazing display of authority, really.
Yeah,
it's badass.
100%.
It's
sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, this is a great example of this. And the annoying thing as a founder is you need to now just like have this top of mind as you are going about to conferences. You're always just thinking, okay, can I organize a dinner? Can I get a speaking slot? Can I do things that will show that I have authority? And it's annoying because it's often like not top of mind for you. It may even involve getting someone to follow you around.
I have done that.
Yeah.
I made a whole docuseries about myself in 2022 and 2023. And it feels ridiculous to have somebody following you down a plane aisle with a fucking camera. I never got used to that.
Yeah.
I would tell him not to do it, and he would do it anyway. Old Ely.
Good content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a question from Neha in the chat. Are you using AI to create those infographics? You are. LinkedIn, is that marking your posts like as created by AI? No.
But let me show you all a hack. I'll show you on screen of how to remove that CR notification. So when you like add a picture here, it gives you a button where you can adjust the settings. So if you change the brightness by like 1 point, it removes the CR tag. It looks like Fahad just mentioned that in the chat too.
Yeah, you read your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You basically take the image that you downloaded directly from AI and you just adjust it very slightly. Brightness sounds like a very easy one to make it a point brighter. That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do that. And yeah, I actually make my infographics in Say What. So what I do is we have an infographics generator, and I find ones that have performed well on LinkedIn on other topics. And then I will think, okay, is there a way I can represent this visual style for some content that I want to talk about?
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Going back to the logos, there's a question about that. So do you add it into a contract to, say like logo usage? Do you ask them straight up? Do you just have it baked in there? Do you need approval before you post? What does that whole spectrum look like?
Yeah. So if you are selling to enterprises, you need to make sure it's in the contract. It's typically fine with SMBs, but with the companies that you want to show their logo of, like you want to show logos that people in your target audience will recognize. And so they usually have tons of red tape around using their logo in places. So you just need to make sure it's in the contract.
Okay. There's a question about image ratio. So I noticed a lot of yours are in portrait. Have you found a ratio or an image size or whatever that is
Yeah.
sort of more favorable? Yeah.
Well, the way I think about it is content on the feed is just advertising space, and you want to take up as much advertising space as possible. And so the maximum ratio that you can use is 1200 by 1500. So it is portrait. And that's just because if your thing is bigger, more people are likely to see it and stop. And that's the problem with text only posts. It's not about the content quality. It's just that it takes up less space in the feed, so people are less likely to spot it.
Especially as more and more people are doing images. I mean, the image and infographic thing is really taken off a bit, especially now we can make them a bit easier with AI. And it's almost like it just gets sand. You almost don't even know it's a post anymore. I mean, that's exaggerating, but like it's dramatic. It's like takes up like 1/5 of the space or less of like a portrait image. So it's really, really interesting. Okay, I want to ask about something. So like when people start posting, their focus initially is just that. It's posting. Like let me just post, let me just hit, publish on this post and get it out into the world. How do you think about sort of a different approach? I know, I've read things you've said about, attributing your success to positioning, strategic commenting, human authenticity, all these things. But yet still most founders are focusing only on posting. So if someone was, let's say they're a few months in, posting is their focus, not necessarily, this more strategic positioning, what is something today you might recommend that they use just as like a bite-sized actionable nugget to start trending upwards a little bit more?
I'm going to give you two things, and they're both to do with your hook. Approach one, use your authority in your hook. What does that mean? Over the last 25 years in HR, here are the 3 biggest things that most people get wrong. And what you're basically doing in that sentence is saying, hey, I've been in this space for 20 years. I have all these learnings. And if you bother to spend 30 seconds reading my thing, then you will learn something. So that's if you have experience. If you are less experienced, but you are building a business, you can use the fact that you will have spoken to a lot of your target audience. So after speaking to 100 CHROs, here's the most common mistake I see them making with AI. And that way you are saying, hey, it's the same principle. Like I've bothered to talk to all these people. And if you spend 30 seconds reading my thing, you'll learn everything that I found.
I love that. I think a lot of people get very timid and don't want to come off as braggy. But if you look around the world of content, whether it's books, podcasts, or LinkedIn posts, I mean, go to a bookstore and see how many books say the best-selling author of, and they reference another book, right? Or like, I mean, shoot, even the beginning of this show was ripping through your credentials, right? Really building you up to be like, hey, this is why we need to listen to Will, because like he's done all this great shit. This world of authority building, like I do see people being overly timid on it. They don't want to come off as braggy or douchey or whatever the word you want to choose is. But ultimately, like that is what everyone uses all the time on their hooks, and that goes well beyond LinkedIn.
100%.
Alex says something about LinkedIn, which I think is a good thing to keep in the back of your mind. So like, number one, it is a professional network. So building your authority is like proportionately more important on LinkedIn than like Instagram or whatever. You might try to hook people in a different way on Instagram than LinkedIn. the authority hook is just what a professional network is begging for. That's number one. Number two, you have to treat LinkedIn as though no one has ever heard of you who is about to read this post. It is a non-sequential platform, and the audience is absolutely enormous. Unfortunately, nobody knows who you are. Hardly anybody knows who I am, and I've been pretty good at this for several years. So keep that in mind when you are writing these hooks. Like, you need to build the maximum amount of credibility in yourself in these two sentences, and put a cliffhanger in it and get somebody to hit see more. Because without those two things, you have no post, basically.
Yeah. Another way to frame Alex's second point there is the busking test. Would you stop on the street to someone who's busking with what you just wrote in your hook? And if the answer is no, it's probably not interesting enough.
Right.
Interesting. So what would, almost doing the mental test of what would someone say if I literally said this to them? Would their eyes glaze over, and this is a gut check, but that's, yeah.
Yeah. That's the bar that you have to have for it.
What is sort of is there a danger in posting mediocre content?
100%. But it's just reflected in how the content performs. I mean, my post today was an absolute stinker, and you have to just show up to learn what good is. I think that's why you have to post a lot at first, is because you generally suck, and by doing it lots, you get lots of feedback loops on how did this perform. And once you see, okay, I did 7 posts and one of them did better and the others all flopped, that then allows you to go, okay, what did that one post have that the others didn't, and how can I do more of that?
Yeah, I like that. Sorry.
Yeah, one thing I just add as well, Pete, is we looked at all of Say What user data, and then for the average user, 90% of their views would come from their top 20% of posts. And so that means if you posted 5 posts, 4 of them would get 250 views each, and one of them would get 9,000. So that means that you're going to feel shit most of the time, when you're posting, because most things will be performing worse than your average, at least in the early days.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. And it's one of the growing pains of starting any new motion is most of your, look, if you're doing email marketing, most of your initial emails are going to suck. You're not going to know how to position, how to frame things, what pain points to lean on. You got to go through the trial and the errors of it. But just a point on the mediocre content. So I like to liken it to music, right? So if you're an artist and you put out 100 songs a year and only one of them's good, the chances of someone sifting through those 100 nonsense songs to find your one good song is probably going to be very rare for someone to actually find that. A real world example, and I hope I'm not bashing a great songwriter, but Leonard Cohen wrote a song called Hallelujah, one of the best songs of all time. He's a very prolific writer. I don't know, released 1 billion albums in his lifetime. And I think it took 10 or 15 years for people to discover that song. And it was Bob Dylan was the one that touted it, but it's it was just buried within all of this. No offense to him, the great all-time great, but he released a lot of mediocre stuff, and it was the nuggets in there were just so buried. And I think the same thing, it doesn't matter if it's a song or an article or a book or a LinkedIn post, don't bury yourself in mediocrity, because it's going to be really hard for people to find the great stuff.
Guys, Jamal just has a great comment. It's not even a question, but it's just a topic worthy of discussion. I used to get huge reach 2+ years ago with thoughtful, authentic content. Doing the same now, but reach is 5 to 10% of what it was. Will, do you have a point of view on this? Have you observed this happen to anyone? I know he's not the only one who feels that. because I've heard it. I think I even felt it last year, maybe not like 5 to 10% of what it was, but like I was worried that I was like in the box somehow. Um, yeah. Do you have a view on this, Will?
Yeah, I think that LinkedIn is a 5 or 6 year old social network inside a 20-something-year-old company, which means it's actually pretty young. And what that means is that lots of people are just coming onto the platform and there's just more competition. There's more competition from ads, there's just more creators. And so it is just going to trend down over time unless you just keep making your content stand out and make it better. Like that just happens on every platform. Like even in my own views, like nowadays I get 700 to a million, 700,000 to a million views a week. And back in 2024, 2025, I would sometimes have like 5 million weeks. I mean, I had a couple posts, one had 20 million views and 10 million views. And the most now ever I get on a post is 500,000. So yes, it's trending down, but like that shouldn't matter. What really matters is just focusing on making great content. And it will still be served. They're trying to get better at serving the content to the right audience, whereas before it was just like spray and pray. So that doesn't mean that less of your ideal customer are seeing it if it's good.
That is a great way to frame it. So it's like their algorithm is actually getting smarter at getting you let's say your 10 million views, maybe it was still 500,000. I mean, I'm over exaggerating probably.
Yeah.
That were fit. And yeah, that's really interesting. I never thought of it because I think I've heard this across the board from people of like, I used to get X, now I get Y, and Y is always lower than X by like a pretty big number. Adam, did
you wouldn't have made the comment, basically, right? Like,
what's that?
Or you wouldn't have made the comment. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna,
Yeah, good point. Yeah, could be people out there. Adam, is yours returned to normal, or is it still a little suppressed?
So I was about to try to like summarize what I think about this issue. So like, I think I used to be able to write about things that I thought the audience wanted from me, right? Like, let's hold Bootstrap versus VC aside for a second, because I think that's just this like evergreen pillar, so long as I keep the ideas around it evolving. I don't think I could so long story short, okay, so there was like a future of go-to-market thing, like the BDR thing as we know it is torched. Like that has largely played out in the last 2 years. It's not new news anymore that you can't like hire a college kid in America, put them in front of SalesLoft, and like that will book demos for a SaaS company. Like that was kind of like shocking at the end of 2022 because these SaaS companies had hundreds of kids doing it, And it's like, well, what does that mean for those kids and this VP of sales and like their families and all that stuff? So like if I think about, I think I might have been getting higher. So it's like, long story short, like I still write stuff that gets a lot of impressions. Like, let me just like share my screen with some recent, in the impressions it gets would be similar to like peak LinkedIn days. So like, look, an old pillar for me is like build in public. I announce when we cross the next million, and it always kind of does it's like a 50,000 impression post. That used to be 100,000 impression post. I think people are getting less surprised about me crossing a new million. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not that great of content anymore.
And the timeline is longer now per million.
So like, I think there is a pillar that's like, what effect is AI having on SaaS or SaaS stocks or the business model of SaaS? How do I protect myself from it? What do you think about it, Adam? That for me is like very good right now. And this was an angle that I had been looking to articulate. That's like, I think like a one-man $10,000 a month show is like a great place to live right now. And that was what this hook is. And this post wasn't exactly that, but this guy's saying like he paid Yotpo, $1,000 a month. Then Okendo came along for 300, and now Judge Me is $15 a month for the same product, and his business is 10 times bigger. And I sort of used that post, which again, this is kind of like a big infographic. It's like taking up a lot of real estate. People will read the post. And I use that to argue this case that like a content-led one-man shop, vibe coded with AI, it's like paradise for you. And I have other manifestations of this. Like this is another version of this topic, and it fucking ripped, right? Like tagged Dharmesh, Lovable's not gonna vibe code HubSpot, but my take was totally different. It's like, I think the reason why these stocks are getting smoked is because we're bringing so many new founders into this world that one of them is Elon, and they're going to kill HubSpot in 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that like Lovable is going to vibe code HubSpot. It's like the aggregate effect of like so many more Elons coming in, going after that market is like the weight you're seeing. So anyway, that was a big post then. That is a big post now. Like, I'm just finding new topics that LinkedIn wants to hear from me about.
Yeah. And just to generalize what Adam is saying, it's like figuring out what is in the zeitgeist right now and having a novel take on this. Because that's what you did here. You took this SaaS talks getting crushed, which like everyone's interested in, and then you added a layer of something interesting on top.
Right. Here was another example of exactly what you just said, right? So like everyone's using AI for everything and posting about it. And like I was at a breakfast. I don't know if some people in this that read this post. I was at a breakfast, and embarrassingly, like, dude, our B2B chatbots run our B2B, but like I don't use it in my everyday job, So like they're asking like, what tool, go around the table and say what AI tools you use for what part of your CEO job. And I'm like, I don't. And of course, that's like totally the opposite of the zeitgeist. Great post, sick reach, but like another interesting idea. Like I'm the successful CEO who is not all spun up about AI.
One interesting observation on that post, if it hadn't have had Aspen in the first line, how do you think it would have performed?
Yeah, less well, less well. It's signaling.
I think that might have taken like 20 to 30K views off of it.
Yeah.
And I just say that to everyone just to like talk about how important your hook is. Like if that was somewhere less like exciting and like high status, like Aspen's a high status place. You go to Aspen, you got money. And so that I think is just a way that you signal to people.
This was an interesting
geographic authority.
This is what interesting one. The hook was, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think you have to be well known to say something like that and get somebody to click it. But this was another one of these like how SaaS is fucked in the world's going to change, right? So like I'm getting repeated over 100,000 impression posts where my average is probably 30 to 40. Anytime I talk about this, like the future world for people like me in this confusing AI backdrop, right? So like what it's telling me is I need to write more about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like 100%. It's like this undertone of, I don't know what it is, anxiety, curiosity, like confusion, like what am I supposed to be building? What am I supposed to be doing? How do I spend my time with all these fucking tools? FOMO, I feel behind, I'm not, whatever, right?
Which all the things you just mentioned are the reasons those are taking off on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and exactly.
Which I want to ask both of you. So I'm going to prompt the audience right now. Audience, drop in links to your recent posts that didn't perform as well as you wanted them to, or maybe ones that did. Just give us a post that you're curious about hearing feedback on. We're gonna have a Will and Adam give some feedback. So start dropping those links in the chat while you're doing that, and while I'm pulling up a series of tabs in my browser for that. I I just want to ask about this Claude content. So, like, Will, I've noticed you posting more and more. They do the whiteboard stuff. Like, you're really piling on things that work on top of each other. Whiteboards about Claude code with an authority headline, right? You're really practicing what you preach here. So, I'm curious what lift you've seen by posting those. Have you seen it get oversaturated? Just any thoughts?
We can just we can show people. Yeah. So I think similar to what Adam just said about this topic that's in the zeitgeist for him, it's exactly the same with this Claude stuff. Like, everyone wants to know about Claude right now. And I was actually talking to OpenAI's team about this last week. And they're like, why is everyone posting about Claude? And creators are self-interested. They're posting things they know are in the zeitgeist and will do well. And so think about what are the topics that are top of mind for people that will perform well. Let me find another one. There's a bunch of Claude. Yeah, fix your LinkedIn with Claude. I've done how to fix your LinkedIn with AI before, and so I just did one with Claude because it's the same stuff, but just packaged in a slightly different way. So yeah, that's my TLDR on that.
Fantastic. All right. And I would say number one, before you post about Claude, do something really cool on Claude to post about.
Yeah.
Do something fucking really cool. All right. Let me share my screen. Let's take a look. We got a bunch of posts hopped up here. I'm going to try to get through as many of these as we can. And all right. Can everyone see this? Let me just, that's weird. Is this coming out okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, Will, let's focus on hook. I think that's the most important thing. It's going to allow us to get through more of these. So,
all right. The problem with the hook is that you haven't told people why should they care. A better version of this hook could be, I get pulled into every client conversation with $100 million CEOs or something like that. Like anything that signals the status of the clients, that in turn signals your status. It could even be, in my last role, I got pulled into 732 client conversations and I had no idea why or something like that. Just like make it feel real. And then people, as they said in the chat, like it does feel a bit like AI.
What makes it feel like that? Because sometimes people will say that about stuff. And I'm like, like I had someone earlier today tell me that a landing page looked like AI, and they were like, it's just the texture. It's not the words or anything else. And I'm like, I don't view it as it anyway. So I'm curious, what sticks out to you as being like, this is AI? Because I think people get almost like subconsciously deterred when they sense that something wasn't written by the person that authored it.
No personal details. It uses the word I, but it doesn't actually give any real experience. And then as a bunch of people mentioned in the chat, not because the team lacked skill, but because leadership didn't trust. That pattern is just really, really common in AI written writing.
Interesting.
And yeah, that's probably.
And by the way, like, so Justin Welsh is this great dude, but he has come up with a template for how a LinkedIn post should like look, basically, like in terms of so if you go back to the other post, like to me, this last one, Pete, whoever this is, Pete, will you go back to that last post?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of this sentence, slightly longer sentence, third sentence that's longer. 1, 2, 3, the other way. You know what I mean? It's this like ascending. It's like, because Justin Welsh has published so much about LinkedIn posts being that, AI now thinks that is what a LinkedIn post is.
Yeah.
And I actually, I haven't done a lot of this, but like I started just like writing rants that are like a block, run on sentences, like no structure at all, just because it's totally, probably the last one I wrote was like over a month ago, but like, yeah, that's an interesting one.
This was interesting. I saw that this morning. I wanted to talk about this. Will, thoughts?
It's like I see these posts now that are like these Justin Welsh templates everywhere. I'm like, AI fucking wrote that. What is the polar opposite of that? It's like something like this, or just like a block rant, you know?
Yeah. Someone who crushes this right now is Stephen Bartlett. His posts sound like he is talking out loud on Diary of a CEO podcast. And I think if you are a CEO, that is the goal. It should sound like you talking so that when someone meets you, they go, "Oh yeah, that's Adam." Like
Yeah.
that's okay.
And that
Next one.
happens. That happens, by the way. And that, by the way, that's why I loved using video. But like videos, like I don't have a video team anymore because I stopped making this documentary. And like LinkedIn also, I don't know what your take is on this. Like the whole talking head thing, I thought was so powerful, but it seemed as though it was like dramatically deprioritizing my post. You know, like to the extent that it was like more damaging than the benefit I was getting from it.
I just think that people don't have a consumption pattern around video on LinkedIn, the users. So I just don't think there are natural places where people just sit and watch video on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a good, probably accurate.
Like you can't sit at your desk and work and just like scroll vertical videos on your computer.
Yeah.
But it is socially acceptable to just whip open LinkedIn when you're done doing whatever work that you're doing.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
point. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And an infographic looks like you're teaching yourself something.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Okay. Bloomberg just did a deep dive into Sweden's startup ecosystem, calling it Silicon Valhalla. Like, why do I care? You know, like that's I think the problem with the hook. What am I going to get out of this when I read it? Like, what's in it for me? Because that's subconsciously what everyone's thinking. Like, what's in it for me? And the short answer when I read that hook is I don't know. And if people are confused, then
yeah.
I agree with you.
Shorten it, use half the words and then tell me why like the 7 things Swedish entrepreneurs do that like make them succeed more than any other entrepreneurs in the world. Something like that.
yeah. Why Sweden has more unicorns than everywhere else in Europe combined or something, despite a tiny GDP or whatever.
Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'll let you read this. Folks, for writing hooks, I always refer like if you want to see how like a great hook is written, go to like Mr. Beast's YouTube channel and watch the first 10 seconds of 3 of his videos. I mean, I know it's a different format, but it's literally like my friends are stranded on a desert island in the winter. You know, who the last person to stand here gets $1 million, or like, let's see if I can beat LeBron James in a shootout. And then like LeBron appear. Like, I know those are very extreme examples, but it is like, here's why you're about to watch this video, and like, there's no way you're not going to. Is his approach. Anyway.
Yeah. I read that. How did it perform? I mean, this seems like the perfect LinkedIn clickbait. Not very well. My suspicion, if you had a visual with this, I think this probably could have get people to click see more. If you'd shown like all the agents or something that were doing work, like the org chart style, I think that may have convinced people that they would get something from clicking.
So I'd probably put this at the bottom. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's usually where those go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you here. It's like, I mean, almost like Adam, I know you post screenshots of your barometrics often. You know, that would probably really beef up this post. I guess that, folks, that's it for the teardown. Folks, before we drop, next time we have a LinkedIn superstar on, would it be interesting to do some sort of breakout session or some more audience interaction? I know we drop these in at the end and we try to get through as many as we can. It's obviously hard given the time constraint if we want to actually give thorough feedback, even when we're just focusing on.
We should have started doing it at 20 minutes before the end of the show, but I dove into mine. What are you going to do?
Optional 30-minute workshop. That's interesting. All right, we're going to experiment with this, folks. We got a lot more coming. Next week, we have our friend Taylor Heron on. He always has a great show on cold outreach. I would say if anybody has their finger on the pulse of cold outreach, it's Taylor Heron. He is the Will McTighe of cold outreach for sure. So we have an exciting one there. We'll do a similar thing next week, folks. So bring in some copy that you're sending out. We'll do some teardowns. We'll start at 20 minutes before the end of the show. and we'll have a great time. So, folks, the recording will be up at the end of the week. We do have that new YouTube channel that we started at the beginning of this year. I just dropped in the link. Subscribe to that, Harvey. That's where it is. And we will see you all next week. Will, I mean, another great session, man. You're a killer. We love having you on. Thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate it.
Thanks
Thanks for
Will.
having me.
It was
Take care,
awesome.
everyone. Bye.
All right. Take
Bye.
care, everyone.